The silent maid, the commander of the human ship, always thought of her as just a maid. She was quiet, polite, and always moved with soft steps that made no sound in the long steel corridors. The crew called her the silent maid. She never argued, never asked for anything, and never showed anger. Her skin was pale silver and her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, reminders that she was not human. She came from a distant world, one the commander had only read about in the archives. At first, he paid little attention to her. To him, she was only part of the background, like the hum of the engines or the blinking lights on the control panels. But one night something changed. The ship drifted quietly through deep space far from any star. The crew slept in their chambers. The commander walked the halls alone, unable to rest. That was when he saw her. She stood at the far end of the corridor, facing the wall as if she was whispering to it. Her hands glowed faintly, leaving strange patterns on the steel surface. For a moment, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. But then he heard a sound, soft, broken words in a language he did not know. The commander froze. Why would a maid speak secret words to the walls of his ship? He took a slow step forward. The floor creaked under his boot, and instantly she stopped. Her glowing hands fell to her sides. She turned her head, and her strange silver eyes locked onto his. Neither of them spoke for several heartbeats. The silence of the ship felt heavy, pressing down on him. Finally, she bowed her head and whispered in her broken human tongue, "Forgive me. I was only remembering." The commander wanted to believe her, but the image of her glowing hands would not leave his mind. He asked carefully, "Remembering what?" She did not answer. Instead, she stepped back, her gaze falling to the floor. "It is nothing," she said softly. "I will return to my duties." And just like that, she slipped past him, her movements graceful, her face calm. But her silence filled the corridor with questions. The commander stood there, alone, wondering. For the first time, he felt that the maid who had lived on his ship for months was a stranger. The next day, he watched her more closely. She cleaned, cooked, and carried out her chores as usual. She moved among the crew with soft smiles and bowed her head whenever someone spoke to her. To the others, she was just the silent maid, harmless and loyal. But the commander could not forget what he had seen the night before. Later that evening, as the stars drifted by outside the ship's windows, he decided to follow her quietly. She walked into the cargo bay, her silver hair glowing faintly under the dim lights. She did not know he was watching. She touched one of the crates, and again her hands began to glow. Strange lines appeared on the surface, symbols he did not recognize. The commander's heart beat faster. He wanted to confront her, but something held him back. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried sadness, like someone holding on to old wounds. She traced the last symbol, then placed her forehead gently against the crate. That was when she whispered again, in the same strange language. The sound was not only words, it was like a song filled with pain and longing. For a moment, the commander felt as though he was listening to the voice of someone who had lost everything. He stepped forward, but this time the crate made a soft noise beneath her hand. She turned sharply, and their eyes met again. Her silver eyes were wet with tears. For the first time since she came aboard, the silent maid looked fragile, vulnerable. "You should not be here," she said quietly, her voice shaking. "Then tell me the truth," the commander replied. His voice was firm, but not angry. "Who are you really? You are no ordinary maid." She opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she shook her head and whispered, "One day you will understand, but not tonight." She brushed past him once more, leaving the cargo bay in silence. The commander stood alone among the crates, staring at the faint glowing marks she had left behind. He touched them with his hand, but they faded instantly, leaving only cold steel. His thoughts raced. Why would an alien servant carry such secrets? What danger did these symbols hide? That night, he could not sleep. The image of her glowing, Hands haunted him. For the first time he realized the truth. The silent maid was not what she seemed. And something told him. The ship, the crew, maybe even the galaxy, would soon learn the same. The hidden truth. The commander tried to focus on his duties the next morning, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the maid. Her glowing hands, her secret whispers, the strange symbols that vanished the moment he touched them. It all burned inside his mind like a fire he could not put out. He told himself she was only a servant, that she was harmless. But deep down, he knew that was a lie. Something about her was dangerous, not because she meant harm, but because she carried secrets bigger than the ship itself. Later that day, while the crew gathered in the mess hall, the commander noticed her standing apart as she always did. She served food quietly, her face calm, her eyes lowered. The crew laughed, argued, and spoke of home, but she remained silent, her silver skin catching the glow of the lamps. Then it happened. A crewman accidentally spilled his drink. The glass rolled toward her feet. She bent to pick it up, and for a brief second her sleeve slid back. The commander's eyes widened. Across her forearm were scars, not from accidents, but from battle. Long, jagged marks, as if made by energy blades and plasma burns. He looked around. No one else noticed. She pulled her sleeve down quickly and continued serving as if nothing had happened. But the commander's heart raced. She had been in war. She had fought before. She was not a maid at all. That night he decided to confront her again. He waited until the halls were quiet. He found her in the storage room, folding uniforms with the same care she gave to every task. "You were in a war," he said suddenly. Her hands froze. Slowly she turned to face him, her silver eyes unreadable. "Why do you say this?" "I saw your scars. I know a fighter's marks when I see them," the commander said firmly. "You are no servant. Who are you really?" For a long time she stood in silence. The hum of the engines filled the space between them. Finally she whispered, "I was not always a maid." The commander stepped closer. "Then what were you?" Her lips trembled as if the truth weighed heavily on her. "I was a soldier, a protector of my people." She lowered her eyes. "But my people are gone now. I am all that remains." The words struck him like a blow. He had read reports of her kind, an alien race known for their sharp intelligence and unmatched courage. But history claimed their world was destroyed years ago in a brutal invasion. Few survived. Most thought them extinct. "You're one of them," the commander said softly. "One of the lost warriors." She nodded slowly. "Yes. And if anyone knew I would be hunted, that is why I serve in silence. It is the only way to hide." The commander's chest tightened. Hunted? By who? Before he could ask, the ship's alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the corridors. The commander rushed to the control panel on the wall. Unknown signals had been detected outside the ship. He turned to her. Her face had gone pale, her glowing eyes sharp with fear. "They found me," she whispered. The commander's blood ran cold. "Who found you?" Her answer came in a trembling voice. "The ones who destroyed my world." At that moment, the deck shook violently. The crew scrambled to battle stations, their shouts echoing through the halls. The commander and the maid ran side by side toward the bridge. On the screens, dark ships appeared, surrounding them. The maid gripped the edge of the console, her silver hands trembling. "They came for me. If I stay here, your crew will die." The commander shook his head. "You think I'll hand you?"
"Over? Never! You're part of this ship now. We fight together." Her eyes widened in shock. "You would protect me, even knowing who I am?" "You are more than just a maid," he said firmly. "And I will not let them take you." For the
first time, her calm mask cracked. Her eyes filled with something he had never seen before. Hope. But beneath that hope was still fear. The commander knew the truth now. She carried a past filled with blood and loss, and enemies who would stop at nothing to erase her forever. As the enemy ships closed in, the commander's mind raced. His crew was brave, but they were unprepared for a fight like this. And yet, beside him stood someone who had once been a warrior unlike any other. He looked at her and said quietly, "If you are truly the last of your kind, then it's time to stop hiding. Show me who you really are." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the distant thrum of enemy weapons charging outside the hull. Her silver eyes glowed brighter, and for the first time, the silent Maid stood tall, not as a servant but as something far more powerful. The commander knew then. The truth was only the beginning. The dangerous night. The red lights kept flashing across the bridge. Warning alarms screamed through every corridor. Enemy ships closed in, dark shadows against the endless stars. The human crew rushed to battle stations, panic mixing with determination, but the commander's eyes stayed locked on her, the maid who was no longer just a maid. She stood at the center of the bridge, her silver skin glowing faintly under the emergency lights. Her calm face was gone. In its place was the look of someone who had lived through war before, someone who had seen entire worlds burn. The commander gave quick orders to the crew. "Shields up, weapons ready. No one fires until I say." But deep down he knew their ship was outmatched. The enemy vessels were larger, faster, and armed with weapons his crew had never seen before. The silent maid's hands gripped the railing, her glowing eyes locked on the screens. "They are not here for your ship," she whispered. "They are here for me." "Then they'll have to go through all of us first," the commander replied firmly. Before she could answer, the ship rocked violently as the first blast hit their shields. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. The crew scrambled to keep systems online. Another blast followed, shaking the deck beneath their feet. The commander turned to her. "You said you were a soldier. Prove it. What do we do?" For a moment she hesitated, then her voice grew stronger. "These ships belong to the Ravagers, the same who destroyed my people. Their weapons will break your shields within minutes, but they are not invincible. I know their weaknesses." The crew froze, their eyes on her. A maid giving tactical orders? But the commander nodded. "Then tell us." She moved quickly to the controls, her fingers flying over the console. She spoke with certainty, guiding the crew to target hidden joints in the enemy armor, blind spots in their formations. For the first time, the humans fought back with precision. Their cannons roared, and one enemy ship burst into flames, scattering debris across the void. The bridge filled with cheers, but the maid did not smile. "That was only the first wave," she said coldly. "The real strike has not yet begun." As if her words summoned it, more ships appeared on the screens. Larger, heavier, glowing with terrible power. The crew's cheers died instantly. The commander clenched his fists. "How many?" "Too many," she whispered. Her voice trembled for the first time. "If they board this ship, none of you will survive." The commander stepped closer, his voice sharp. "Then tell me, why do they want you so badly?" Her silver eyes met his, filled with sorrow. "Because I carry what they fear. Knowledge. Secrets they tried to erase when they destroyed my world. I remember the old codes, the old weapons, the ways to fight them. As long as I live, they are not safe." The commander's mind raced. She was not just a survivor. She was a threat to the enemy's entire empire. And now his ship was caught in the middle. Before he could answer, the ship shuddered again. This time, the lights flickered, and the floor shook with violent force. The enemy had locked a tractor. "Beam onto them. They're pulling us in," a crewman shouted. The commander gritted his teeth. "Prepare for boarding." The maid's face grew grim. She stepped away from the consoles, her silver hands glowing brighter. For the first time, the crew saw her as she truly was. Not a servant, but a warrior. When the Ravagers stormed the airlock, chaos erupted. The halls filled with gunfire and screams. The crew fought bravely, but the enemy warriors were larger, armored and merciless. And then, the Maid moved. She leapt into the fight with speed no human could match. Her glowing hands became weapons, striking down armored ravagers with bone-crushing force. Her body twisted with grace and power, every movement precise. She fought like a storm, her silver hair flowing, her eyes burning with fury. The crew watched in shock. The woman they thought was only a maid tore through enemies like a living blade. The commander stood frozen for a moment, then shouted to his crew, "Fight with her! Don't let them take this ship!" Together, they pushed back the ravagers. The halls shook with the sound of battle. Human rifles blazed, and the Maid's glowing strikes cut down wave after wave. But the enemy was endless. More warriors stormed through the airlock, their roars echoing. The Maid's breathing grew heavy, her body covered in cuts. But she did not stop. She stood like a shield between the invaders and the crew. Finally, the commander reached her side. He fired his weapon, covering her as she struck down another ravager. Their eyes met for a brief moment. In that silence, he realized something. She was not fighting only to survive. She was fighting to protect them. Protect him. The battle raged on. The humans fought harder, inspired by her courage. But the commander knew this night was only the beginning. The enemy would not stop. They would keep coming until either she was dead or the galaxy itself burned. And as the smoke cleared, from the corridor the commander whispered to himself, "This is no ordinary Maid. This is our last chance." The unspoken bond. The smoke still lingered in the corridors. Burnt metal and blood filled the air. The humans walked among the fallen ravagers, their faces pale, their bodies trembling with exhaustion. The battle was won for now. But the commander knew it was not over. He turned and saw her. The Maid, no, the warrior, stood with her back against the wall. Her silver skin was streaked with burns, her arms cut, but her eyes still glowed with quiet fire. She had fought harder than any soldier he had ever seen. The crew stared at her in silence. They whispered to each other, confused and afraid. She had been a maid, a servant, someone they hardly noticed, and now she was something entirely different, something beyond human understanding. The commander stepped toward her. "You saved us," he said softly. Her head lowered, her voice calm but heavy. "I only delayed them. They will return with more. They always return." He wanted to argue, but deep down he knew she was right. The ravagers never stopped until their target was destroyed. And now, she had revealed herself. Hiding was no longer possible. That night the commander could not sleep. He stood on the observation deck watching the stars drift past. His thoughts circled around her, the scars on her arms, the way she fought, the fire in her eyes. She had carried this secret for so long, and now he was tangled in it. He heard footsteps behind him. He turned. She stood there quietly, her silver hair falling over her shoulders. For once, she was not in her maid's uniform. She wore simple clothes given to her by the crew, but even then, she looked different. Strong, untouchable, and yet fragile in the glow of the stars. "Why did you come here?" he asked. His voice was low but filled with questions. "Why serve as a maid on a human ship? Someone like you? You should have been a leader." Her eyes shimmered with sadness. "Leaders die first, warriors follow them into the fire. I survived, but not because I was stronger. I survived because I ran." He frowned. "You call that running? I saw you fight tonight. You're no coward." She shook her head. "You don't understand. When my world fell, I was sworn to protect our children. But I failed. I carried one child in my arms, but he was killed before we reached the ships. My people's future burned that day. I was the only one left." Her voice broke, and for the first time, the commander saw tears fall from her silver eyes. He stepped closer, his chest heavy with her pain. "You lost everything." "Yes," she whispered. "And since that day, I chose silence. I chose to serve, to hide among strangers, to carry no weapons. I thought if I became invisible, the ravagers would never find me. But they did. The commander's fists clenched. And now they want you because you're the last of your kind. She nodded slowly. I carry memories they fear, codes, secrets, weapons that could destroy them. I tried to bury them inside myself. But tonight proved I can't run forever. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The stars glowed softly beyond the glass, cold and distant. Finally, the commander said, "You're not alone anymore. You're part of this crew. You're part of me." Her eyes widened slightly. "Part of you?" He met her gaze firmly. "I don't care what you were or what secrets you carry. You're here now. And as long as I breathe, I will not let them take you." The silence stretched between them, heavy and unspoken. For the first time, she allowed herself to look at him not as her commander, not as her master, but as someone she could trust. Then, the ship trembled again, not from battle, but from a signal. A warning. The crew rushed to the bridge. On the ISON main screen, a massive Ravager warship loomed in the darkness, far larger than anything they had faced before. Its weapons glowed like burning suns. Gasps filled the room. "We can't fight that," a crewman whispered. The maid stepped forward, her eyes locked on the monstrous ship. Her voice was calm, almost resigned. "That is their flagship. They will not stop this time. If we fight, we will die." The commander looked at her sharply. "Then what's the alternative?" She hesitated, then whispered, "I surrender." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member turned to her in shock. The commander's voice was low and hard. "No, absolutely not. If they take me, they may spare you," she said quietly. "This ship does not deserve to be destroyed because of me." He slammed his fist against the console. "You think I'll let them kill you? After everything you've done? No. You're one of us. We fight together." Her lips parted as if she wanted to argue, but then she saw the fire in his eyes, the same fire her people once had before their world fell. Something inside her shifted. For the first time since her planet's destruction, she felt not only sorrow, but hope. The crew looked at the commander, waiting for his orders. He looked back at her, his voice steady. "We don't run, we don't surrender. Not tonight." And as the Ravager flagship drew closer, the bond between them, unspoken, unbreakable, burned brighter than the enemy's weapons. The night that changed everything. The Ravager flagship filled the view screen like a black mountain floating in space. Its hull burned with red lights, each one a weapon powerful enough to crush a city. The crew stood frozen, their eyes wide, their hearts pounding. They had survived the boarding fight, but this was something far greater. The commander gripped the railing, his jaw tight. He could feel the fear running through his crew, but his own fear was heavier, the possibility of losing her. The maid, no, the warrior, stood beside him, her glowing eyes locked on the monstrous ship. "They won't stop," she whispered. "Not until I am dead." The commander shook his head firmly. "Not tonight, not on my ship." Her lips trembled. "If I fight with what I carry inside me, if I unleash it, you may not recognize me anymore." He looked at her, steady and unafraid. "Then show me. Show all of us. No more hiding." For the first time, she let the silence break. Her silver hands began to glow brighter. So bright, the crew shielded their eyes. Strange symbols lit up across her arms, the same mark she had once hidden under her sleeves. Her voice rose in an alien tongue, strong and commanding, like a song of war carried across the stars. The commander's heart pounded. He didn't understand her words, but he felt their weight. This was no servant's chant. This was a call, from the last of a people who refused to die quietly. The Ravager flagship fired. A massive blast shot across space, striking the human ship's shields. The crew screamed as systems flickered, but before the second blast came, she raised her glowing hands and pressed them against the control console. The ship itself responded. Light surged across the panels. Engines roared with a power they had never reached before. The crew stared in shock. The Maid was not only a warrior, she was connecting with the ship itself, unlocking hidden strength buried deep in its systems. How is she doing that? One crewman whispered. She carries their codes, the commander said, his voice low. The knowledge the Ravagers tried to erase. She's using it for us. Outside, the human ship moved with new speed, dodging the enemy's fire like a predator among prey. Cannons roared, striking weak points she revealed with each command. One Ravager destroyer exploded, then another. The crew shouted in triumph, their fear burning into courage. But the flagship remained. It loomed larger and larger, preparing its final strike. Its weapons glowed like suns ready to burst. The Maid's body shook from the strain, her silver skin glowing hotter, brighter. I cannot hold it much longer, she whispered. The commander stepped to her side, placing his hand over hers on the console. Then we finish this together. Her eyes widened at his touch, but she did not pull away. Instead, the glow of her hands spread into his. For a moment, he felt the fire of her people, their loss, their rage, their hope, burning inside him. Together they guided the ship toward the Ravager flagship. The enemy unleashed its final blast. A wave of fire tore through the void. But at the same moment, the Maid's voice rose into a cry that shook the ship. The hidden codes, the forbidden knowledge she carried, surged into the human systems. Shields flared, weapons roared with a light brighter than any star. The human ship fired one last time. The blast tore through the Ravager flagship's core. The massive ship split apart, explosions scattering its remains across the void. The crew erupted into cheers, tears running down their faces. Against all odds, they had survived. The commander turned to her. She collapsed to her knees, her body trembling, her silver glow dimming. He caught her before she fell. You saved us, he whispered. Her voice was faint, but steady. No, we saved each other. He held her tightly, his chest heavy with relief and fear. For so long she had been only the silent maid, hidden in the background. But tonight proved the truth. She was more than that. She was a warrior, a survivor, a protector. The crew gathered around, their voices filled with respect. No one looked at her as a servant anymore. They looked at her as one of them. As the wreckage of the Ravager flagship drifted away into the dark, the commander knew the galaxy would never be the same. The secret she carried was no longer hidden. The enemies who hunted her would spread the word. A human ship, with a lone alien survivor at its heart, had destroyed their flagship. This was not the end. This was the beginning. And on that night, the night when silence turned into fire, when a maid became a warrior, when a bond stronger than fear was forged, everything changed forever.